It's pizza time, so I'm gonna need to go put the pizza in the oven real fast.
Clean this mess up.
Welcome to Sound Lab Studios.
Sound Lab Studios. That's the name I came up with because when I bought my guitar pedal board, I called it the Sound Lab.
We have lots of fun making music-related videos.
Start the album with your longest song and your biggest song. I almost feel like this would have been a better closer, but
Life is just a program.
I wouldn't say I'm a die-hard Led Zeppelin fan, but I've always enjoyed them.
We rank albums on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. It's my second favorite Led Zeppelin album.
Moving Pictures for me gets a 10 out of 10.
I'm also going to give it a 9.5.
Still stand by 1 out of 10. None of the songs really stood out.
So be sure to subscribe, and also make sure to hit that bell for notifications, because you're not going to want to miss out on Sound Lab Studios' fun, amazing music content.
Hey, music fans, and welcome back to Sound Lab Studios. Today, we are going to be doing a review on this lovely album right here. Oop, that was not a good take. Let me retrieve that. I burped right in the middle of it. Or maybe I should keep it. And
that'll be the intro.
anyway, we're going to be reviewing the Royal Scam by Steely Dan today. And Nick's lovely copy of the Royal Scam over there.
Wait.
Nick, you're in the wrong review.
Wait, we're reviewing the Royal Scam? You told us we were doing Asia today.
Oh, I guess you could hold up your copy of Another Night by the Hollies.
Man, Nick's like, this is a royal scam right here.
Yeah.
This is a Royal Scam. What the heck, man?
Oh, Nick, did you know Another Night by the Hollies was produced by Alan Parsons?
That explains why it sounds so good.
Yeah. And so that's another artist that I've been getting into recently. But today, we are talking about Steely Dan, the Royal Scam. And I know we're not reviewing them in order. We should start with Can't Buy a Thrill and work our way through. But I want to do this one because this is one I've been listening to over and over again recently. I got a Walkman cassette player for fun, and I taped this record onto it. And so in the car, I've just been listening to this tape over and over again. I'm trying to learn how to play Kid Charlemagne on guitar, which is very difficult. I'm getting through it, but it's not easy. Larry Carlton, one of the great guitar players of all time, his solo on that is amazing. But anyway, before we dive into this album, we would just have any kind of general thoughts on this album or in Steely Dan in general, because this is the first time we've kind of covered Steely Dan as much as I've talked about them on this channel. In a review form, we had the Steely Dan ranking in top 10 songs, and I had a Can't Buy a Thrill review that was one of the old videos that we probably need to redo because I know Jason really likes that album. But any just general thoughts?
I guess I'll go first. My first introduction to Steely Dan was the big one. The two big songs, Do It Again and Dirty Work. I thought those were pretty good songs. Never really went further from that until I met Garrett. I got him into the Hollies, so when he tried to get me into Steely Dan, I'm like, you know what? I got him into one band. I might as well dig into a band that he really likes. And I will say I am more of a casual Steely Dan fan on the lower end. I love their debut. I love Countdown to XC. I'm kind of with Jason. I do like when they were with the band more, but that doesn't take it away from this album and even this album that I got from him generously. That's Asia.
That's the best
I mean,
one.
it's up there. It used to be my favorite. It's an album that I liked the first time, which I know Garrett said he didn't like it the first listen as much, but for me, I got it right away. But I listened to all the albums. Can't Buy Thrill, Stone Cold classic for a reason. Has one of my all-time favorite songs on it, Midnight Cruiser. That's still my favorite song by them. Probably will always be. Like I said, Countdown to Ecstasy was really good. Pretzel Logic is decent, but probably not an album that I'm like. Besides my four favorite, I'm probably never going to be listening to these other ones that much, like Pretzel Logic, Katie Lied, and especially Gotcha. Those three albums.
Oh.
I'm probably never going to listen to those three again unless I kind of not have to, but like if we're reviewing them or maybe once in a blue moon, I'm like, you know what, I'm in the mood for Pretzel Logic. Which
Ricky, don't lose that number.
that's I mean, it sucks because Ricky Don't Lose That Number is one of my favorite songs by them.
Get the 45.
Yeah, I might. But
I've been getting more 45s. I just got a bunch of Simon and Garfunkel 45s, and I got the Every Breath You Take 45 because I wanted Murder by Numbers.
my only thing with 45s is that like I have to stand up a lot. Like I listen to one song and I have to stand up to flip it over for the
Unless
next
you have a
song.
record changer, and then you can just play all the A sides in order.
Yeah, the A sides. I always like to listen to B sides too as well. That's the one best thing about singles is listening to the B sides, the hidden gems, probably. But yeah, that's my introduction to them. That's how I feel about them, and I'll give you more of my thoughts on Steely Dan when we talk about the album.
For me, I don't know what it was about this music that I really liked. I guess it's because it's not simple music, it's complex music, and the first time you hear it, it kind of caught off guard, and then you're like, there's got to be something more to this, and the more you listen to it, the more you get, I guess.
Have
Like
to really pay attention
a
to
song as
what they're
simple as the
playing. Yeah.
Fez, you can either just go, oh, that's a groovy little number, or you can be like, what is Chuck Rainey doing on the bass in this song? What's Walter Becker doing on the guitar? What is like it's stuff like that. Anyway, this is actually one of the last Steely Dan albums I got. It's one of my favorites, but I didn't have it for a long time. And then I got it, I think, last Christmas. And I played it, and then later on, I like because my brother and we like some of the same songs, but sometimes we like different kinds of music. And I was playing a lot of Steely Dan. That was kind of a good middle ground. And I'm like, I got a new Steely Dan album. Maybe I can play that. And my dad was like, "Oh, I is that what you were playing earlier today? Because whatever that was really good." And it was this. So
Right. Yeah. So for me, of course, I've been familiar with Steely Dan for quite some time now. The first album I heard was Asia. Like I think like most people, that's usually the go-to when you're starting out with Steely Dan. From what I always hear, people always talk about how great the sound production is and the playing on here. And I will say it took me a little bit to really get it at first because they were a bit more jazzy than what I was used to at the time because I was more of the hard rock metal type of person. And so Steely Dan didn't quite click at first, but I can't remember when exactly, but I believe it was kind of when I was giving them another go because by that point I had Asia on CD, which you can sort of see. It's dark back there, but kind of it's blending back there. But so I re-listened to it and I watched a documentary about the making of the album, and I guess just learning about the album and kind of listening to it again, you kind of have a much bigger appreciation for what Walter Becker and Donald Fagen had wanted to do with Steely Dan name. I mean, and then of course I decided to check out a couple more albums, and it was this album I believe that really where the band really clicked for me because this one a lot more jazz, it's still jazzy, but a lot more funky. Lot more great grooves on it, which really caught my attention. So I'm just gonna come out and say right now, this is by far my favorite Steely Dan album. It's always been my favorite for ever since I first heard it. I'll go more in depth as we do the review, but yeah, I will say I'm on the higher end when it comes to Steely Dan fan. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan, but I am
That
definitely
would
on
be
the
me.
more. Yes, yes. But I'm like in second place. Of the three of us, I'm in second place. And of course, Scott over there also sent me a Steely Dan album on record, which again, very grateful. So
This is
yeah, I
my
can't
this is
wait
my
to do this review.
second favorite Steely Dan album. It was my third when we did the ranking video, so it went up. But
I'm glad you're the one who always tells me. Yeah, it's my fourth favorite. I'm sorry. Uh, I will say of the four of us, Jason's like the he's like the casual person who just knows their big hits and an album and likes an album or two. I'm like the kind of person like I'm kind of like how Garrett is. I'm like there's albums I like by them, but I don't know. They're not a band slash artist that I usually go to that much. Like every
Mhm.
once in a while, I'm like, you know what? I could really go for that jazz fusion that Steely Dan's going for,
Yeah.
but I don't usually do that out that often. It's just they're not my they're not my it's not my favorite kind of music.
okay, what did
Okay.
you say? So I was pizzaing.
Oh, I said I was just saying that I'm kind of like you with the Rolling Stones. Like I like there's certain albums I really like, but they're not a band that I. Well, I know. Well, we all listen to the Stones, but for like some stuff that I like way more than others. There's albums where I like the big hits on, but I'm kind of like with you on the Rolling Stones, or I'm just
Yeah.
I will say I am. I will say I'm more of a fan than Jason is. I'm not saying that as an insult. Is this is way out of this is probably way out of what Jason listens to. uh, Jason, like I said, is like the casual listener. Like he likes an album or two and a big number of some of their hits. But I'm like the second, like I'm like the third most, and then Briar's like second most, and of course you're like the hugest Steely Dan thing out of all of us.
Because I really got into them in the summer of 2020. Was it 2022? Yeah,
Yeah,
last summer. Man, I listened to them so much that
I don't blame you because I know how it's like to discover an artist
and
almost
like
like
I took jazz theory in college, so like
Mm.
now I don't remember a lot of it, but from what I remember, I'm like this is kind of taking jazz concepts and putting it in a pop rock context, which I think is really cool.
yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Plus, I know how it's like to discover a band for the first time or an artist for the first time and just going through the discography, loving everything.
Oh
That's
yeah,
how I felt with the Beach Boys when I first
I'm
discovered
kind
just
of going through that with the Alan Parsons project right now. Like I like
yeah,
Eye in the Sky, and now I'm getting into their other albums.
yeah. That's how I was with the Beach Boys. I get around and then I started going into more of them and just the magic of discovering an artist like the Hollies and Small Faces, just discovering them and just being like, oh my god, this is me discovering
Mm.
it because most of the music I
Yeah.
discovered from was from my dad, like the Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. That wasn't me discovering it. That was my father passing down to me, and this,
Like
I know
that
how
album right there. Or that one, if I can point to it.
I know how it feels though,
Yeah.
Garrett, to discover an artist. So I know how you feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we all been through that.
If you do not know about Steely Dan, it's time for background information. Background information. So Steely Dan, a long time ago in a magical year of 1972, released their first album called Can't Buy a Thrill, featuring Denny Diaz and Jim Hodder and David Palmer and Jeff Baxter and all of these great people that made up a full band. But as Steely Dan went on, more and more of their members seemed to disappear from the roster until it came down to just Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. with the occasional appearance of Denny Diaz on the guitar, including on this album. By the point of the Royal Scam, Steely Dan almost was exclusively made up of studio artists on each individual track. And Donald Fagen and Walter Becker were such perfectionists that sometimes they would have several different people play the song until they got it exactly how they wanted it. On the Royal Scam, we have some of the greats like Larry Carlton and Bernard Purdie playing, who would become a regular in some of their later albums. This has been background information. Thank you very much for watching. But seriously, Briar, do you have anything to add? Because that was kind of a joking tone in the background information.
No, I think you hit the big things. Of course, yeah, by this point they are primarily a studio act at this point, because I think at a certain point they kind of stopped performing live even because they weren't really into the touring scene that much. So this really gave them the time to really hone in on the songwriting and the composition, and really does show. Of course, their next album following the Royal Scam would definitely be another big step in their progression. But this was definitely still really good stuff on here. Some other people worth noting, like Chuck Rainey on bass, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Even some of the backing vocalists, like Michael McDonald makes some appearances on this album too, and even Timothy B. Schmidt, who would later join
The
the
Eagles.
Eagles. Yeah, so it's kind of cool that have those connections there. But yeah, that pretty much is a good sum up of their history at this point.
Essentially, this is their revolver almost. Like they stopped touring, like kind of like the Beatles did, and it's like this kind of like what the Beatles did. They stopped touring, they became a studio band, and that's when their creative explosion happened. Kind of like them almost. Like stop touring, that's when their sort of creative explosion happened. So I'm gonna nickname this their revolver, even
Makes
though
sense.
it doesn't even sound close to the revolver.
No, just
Not
like
really.
in the
No,
hit
not
in
really.
their history. You know
Yeah.
what does sound like Revolver?
Oh, I know what you're gonna pull up.
This.
There you go. Nice callback to our previous episode.
Which
Yep.
I actually got that record now. Spirits Having Flown. I have that one.
Mhm.
It's a good album.
Nice.
Mhm.
Okay,
Go watch
so
our review
yeah.
somewhere.
See if it'll pop up.
Yeah, that little symbol thing.
Yeah.
Oh, look. There it is. Thank you, Mr. YouTube guy. Okay. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the track by track. Starting off with Kid Charlemagne.
Right off the bat, this kicks it off with a bang. I mean, this is one of the most well-known songs, of course. Again, the keyboard playing on here, just phenomenal. And Bernard Purdie already on the drums, just really keeping the groove. I mean, they even named a shuffle after him, the Purdie Shuffle, which definitely means a lot. Of course, you have Chuck on bass. Again, great bass line throughout. You didn't have clavinet on this track as well. It's funky, it's groovy. Great vocals by Donald Fagen. Really good stuff. I mean, throughout this whole album, he has a really good vocal throughout this whole album. The chorus is really catchy. Guitar playing by Larry, the guitar solo he does is just spectacular. Just a perfect way to open up the album.
Yeah, it's one of their most recognizable songs for a reason. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I don't think there's a single one of their hits I don't like from their first album up until Asia. It's just they just knew how to make some really well. I wouldn't say hits. Like I don't hear any of these songs on the Hawk or anything, but for like their greatest hits and all that, not a single bad one on it. Like none of that make me wonder like, oh, how is this song the greatest hits or something? But like,
Except well, lost
oh yeah,
wages, lost wages.
I always
lost
forget that's on the greatest hits. That's like one of the worst songs. I don't want to talk bad about them. So
Okay.
yeah, up until now, like the first, Kid Charlemagne, Ricky, Don't Lose That Number, Do It Again, Reunion the Years, My Old School. They just knew how to make some really gosh darn good songs. Doctor Wu is amazing. Black Friday. But talking about this song, I agree. This is a banger to open up the album. The video we just did was on my channel, and let's just say the opening track to that album wasn't that good. So when I did listen to this album, like earlier before making that other review, I'm like, this album opener is so much better. I'm just like, oh wow, it's like an insult. It's like an insult to Fleetwood Mac almost after reviewing that. But yeah, what a fantastic opener.
I love this song. It is absolutely amazing from the beginning with that boom, 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 and the Bernard Purdy's drumming on this is fantastic.
Mhm.
I like the backing vocals are really good, and in true Steely Dan fashion, it takes the gentleman loser stereotype, a guy who's caught in some kind of terrible lifestyle that's trying to get out. But in this case, it's an LSD dealer who's losing business because all of his customers are going to coke. And he was once a great drug dealer, and now he's got nothing. So it's kind of Donald Fagen sarcastically commenting about, like, weren't you this great hero in these people's eyes, and now you've got nothing? And he ends up getting caught because he forgets to put gas in his car, which I think is really funny. One of the greatest lines of all time. Is there gas in the car? Yes, there's gas in the car. But the real hero of this song is not Kid Charlemagne. It is Larry Carlton with one of the greatest guitar solos all time, probably my top 5. It's just he solos over the changes perfectly. It's very melodic. Not easy to play either. I'm trying to learn how to play this right now, and it's very tricky. But just the way he chooses the notes is really good, and I can't believe that he just made it up on the spot. Apparently just improvised it, which you got to be pretty good to come up with something like that on the spot. And if you watch Larry Carlton play this song nowadays, he plays it like an instrumental version live when he tours, and he always tells the story of how Steely Dan called him up one day and was like, "Hey Larry, you want to join us on our next tour?" He said, "Yeah," but he's like, "Well, inevitably the thought came up with, oh, I've got to play Kid Charlemagne. So the question is, do I play it? Do I just improvise something and play how I would now, or do I relearn the solo for note for note?" And so he's like, I asked my family, I'm like, do I improvise or do I learn the solo? And they looked at me like I was crazy, like, play the solo on the record. And so Larry Carlton had to learn his own solo note for note. And apparently he did good opening night, but then the second night he messed it up really bad and made the headlines. But I think it's funny that Larry Carlton had to relearn his own solo. That's pretty funny. But
Yeah.
this is an absolutely amazing song, and probably features what I would say is my like favorite lineup of Steely Dan, having Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, but then having Chuck Rainey, Bernard Purdy, and Larry Carlton. Like, if I was to see Steely Dan live back in the day, if they were touring, because they retired from touring, but if they were going to be touring, that's who I'd want to see. I'd want to see like Bernard Purdy, Chuck Rainey, Larry Carlton, and then Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. And then maybe have like Steve Gadd come out to play Asia on the drums, and Michael McDonald, of course. But there's just so many good musicians that they get in these albums. Okay, that is our first track. We are going to go to track 2, The Caves of Altamira.
Right. Yeah. Another really great follow-up song, I think. I mean, here you have the horn section really coming in, and I'm a sucker for horns, so yeah, they sound absolutely incredible on this song. Again, great drumming and keyboard playing. Again, another really good chorus to this one, very good melody to it. And I love the saxophone solo on here, which is, again, I love a good sax solo, and this is definitely a really great one. Let's see, where did I definitely had this one. It was, yeah, I had this ranked pretty high when I was ranking all the songs, but yeah, this is another great standout, great song.
Yeah, this is pretty good after the first track. You know, after starting off with a really good song, you know, not disappointed at all. Very very good stuff. I do prefer the last song. I do prefer the first song, but yeah, this is a very solid playing. The horns are great. I definitely agree with Briar there. Um, you say you're a sucker for horns. You might actually really like Giant Entwistle's first album, Smash Your Head Against the Wall. A lot of horns on that album, but yeah, it's good stuff.
It's another great album, a really good 1-2 punch. I love the horns at the beginning. Kind of just a story about going into a cave and finding cave paintings, and how before there was Hollywood, people would paint on the wall what they like, paint stories on the wall. And like Briar mentioned earlier, the saxophone is absolutely amazing. A very catchy chorus as well. Another great song on this great album. And that is going to take us to track 3, Don't Take Me Alive.
Right, yes. Another really great song. I mean, the guitar playing throughout this entire song is just so good. I mean, the guitar intro is just so cool. Another fantastic groove that the drums and bass are creating. Yeah, another great chorus on here. I didn't write a whole lot to say about it, but it's just such a really well crafted, very groovy song. And yes, again, another good standout for me.
As a huge standout for me. Like I said, I usually whenever I listen to them, I usually lean towards their bigger songs and the bigger the hits. And this is another great song on the album. What a great song this is. And I was listening to the way Baker plays drums for the bands he was in the '60s. I would have sometimes I think like, oh, how he would have been cool if like Baker would have joined the band, because I know he was involved in jazz. He was a big fan of jazz, and sometimes I think like, oh, what if Baker was?
He probably would have
what-
had too big of a personality for Steely Dan. 'Cause Donald Fagen and Walter Becker were very, you do it this way. And I don't
Yeah.
think Ginger Baker would have liked
Yeah,
that.
no, I don't think so either.
Except they did have some people who talked back to him. I know Bernard Purdy did. Like I heard an interview where Bernard Purdy was talking, and they said like Walter Becker and Donald Fagen one time told him like, stop making everything a shuffle. You got to play it straight. And he's like, no, man, it's the Purdy shuffle. And so like some of the songs that are shuffle weren't even supposed to be shuffle, but he made them that way. Or my favorite story is when Chuck Rennie was playing the bass on Peg, and they said
Mhm.
stop slapping, and then he like
Yeah.
turned the back and he slapped anyway, and they heard the playback like, I like what you're doing on the bridge there. What was that? Was slapping.
yeah, good stuff though.
Right from the beginning, this is going to be amazing. That very dramatic chord at the beginning, bow, 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 and then an absolutely insane guitar intro from Larry Carlton. Very catchy chorus, great musicianship, and I love that little lick he plays at the end. It's really good. One of my favorite songs on the album. It's absolutely amazing. All right. Sign in Stranger.
Hey, so now we kind of slow down a little bit for this track. Definitely not as kind of quick as the other ones, but still, regardless, this song is still really good as well. Really great piano playing, which was provided by a session musician named Paul Griffin. He's great throughout this track. Another very solid, steady groove to this one. And you have Elliot Randall providing some guitar playing here as well. It kind of stays in this groove, but then it's at some point, the horns start to kick in, and then the song kind of changes a little bit, kind of changes keys almost, and really great closing to the song. Really sounds really nice. So yeah, another pretty good song. Didn't quite make the top 5 for me, but I I will say there's like no bad songs on this album. Like I enjoy every single song here, so it's not really saying much when I say a song's near the bottom, but yeah, really good one.
I agree. It's pretty good. I will agree. This is this is towards the bottom. I might even say this is my least favorite off the album, but
Me too.
like you said, there's no clunkers on this album. There's none of them that like offend me or like that like, oh, what were they thinking? Were they trying to insult my intelligence or something? Call back to the last video. That we did not on the Bee Gees, but that we did on my channel. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, it's pizza time. I'm just love the piano on this. Piano is fantastic. I love the horns, and I didn't know it was Elliot Randall. It's the Reeling in the Years guy. But now that you mention it, I can definitely hear it. That sounds a lot like him. It is still my least favorite song on the album, but every song on this album is fantastic, so something has to be bottom. And I'm going with this.
So basically, me and you agree on that, Garrett.
Yeah.
Glad we do. I thought it was gonna be like that's your least favorite.
But I love the piano, and I love the like the do 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 do. But my favorite part is probably the "Who are you? Just another scurvy brother," and then the piano solo.
Yeah,
I like all
yeah.
that.
I thought that was gonna be like a song that like you and Briar would be like, that's your least favorite. How dare you?
No, but if you say that
no.
about the next song,
Oh, the best song on the album, you mean? I have nothing. I'm gonna go first on saying it's I'm not good with the name, so
the
next one,
Fez.
the Fez.
The best.
I'm gonna I know Briar's been starting off first, but this is the best song on the album easily. Oh man, this is some of the best playing that they've done yet. I even would bother to say it's better than the playing that they did on their first album, and I think their first album is their best album. So, hats off to them.
And Roy
Okay.
Harper.
This is a lot. Yeah, this is easily the best track on the album. I don't know how anyone could say this could even be close to being their least favorite.
No,
Yeah,
this is amazing.
I love this song. It's one of my all-time favorite Steely Dan songs. It's this song and my number two. It's either between. I don't know. It's sometimes it's one or two on my ranking. So it kind of battles. But yeah, I love this song. The bass line on here is just killer. I mean, I've tried to play the bass line. Actually, one of the more simpler bass lines that they have. But yeah, and I just absolutely love how funky it is. It's so catchy. Walter is doing most of the guitar work on this one, and yeah, just really adds really extra texture here. I mean, lyrically, it's repetitive as heck, but you do not get tired of them. They just repeat
No,
the same
this is
verse and chorus
good.
the whole time, but it's just so catchy. You just don't care. It's just you're just kind of just grooving to it. But yeah, it's a great song. One of my, like I said, one of my all-time favorites in their whole catalog.
When you open up the inner sleeve of this and you look at the lyrics, and it's like, oh, it's just "You're never gonna do it without the Fez on" a bunch of times. It's like
Mhm.
that's it to the song. But then you listen to it, and oh man, the groove on this song, and then it comes with the "You're never gonna do it without the Fez on." This is so catchy, and then the guitar fills that Walter Becker is doing are really good. Every time this song comes on, I should not be listening to this while I'm in the car, because every time I hear it, I'm just like, and even when I'm driving, and I did that the other day. My rooms are like, "Why, dude? What are you doing? Like, drive." I'm like, "But it's the Fez," and I gotta get the groove on every time the Fez comes on. But one of the
Yeah.
best songs on the album.
Yeah, showbiz kids, keep it. This is how you do a repetitive song.
Okay, we are now going to go to side two, and to do that, we must ceremonially flip the record over. All right, side two starts out with Green Earrings.
Right. Okay, so from here we have Elliot Randall once again providing some guitars alongside you have Danny Diaz as well. Another pretty great song here. Another one that kind of ranks more towards the bottom for me, but again, like we already established, there's no bad songs here, so that's not really saying a whole lot. Great keyboards again, the drumming once again being a great standout. Nice fast-paced song, one of the faster-paced songs here. It's just jazz rock at its finest.
Yeah, this is good, but yeah, this is another song that's teetering towards the bottom, especially after the Fez. Uh, what a it was a little bit of a disappointment. And in the rough draft, this was my least favorite on the album, solely because of it coming after the Fez. I mean, how do you follow up the Fez? I mean, you know, fair argument, right? But yeah, that's my second least favorite. I mean, like Breyer established, we all agree that there's no bad song on this album. So even one of the weaker songs on the album, well, weaker songs on the album has a lot of great things going for it.
I don't think this is one of the weaker songs on the album at all, but that's just my opinion. I love the groove of this. Bump, 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 and then the guitar. And then at the very end, I don't know what they're doing, but it sounds like the guitar explodes or something. It's like, I'm like, what is going on here? How did they? I'm a guitar player and I don't even know how they did that. They had to do something on the control panel with the sound, but wow. It's just another really funky song. I'm sorry if you guys don't like it, but I love this. This is one of my
Oh
favorites
no, I
on the
love it.
album.
I don't hate it at all.
Oh yeah, I think this is a really solid track. I'm not. I mean, if you want to if you want to see me hate on some songs, go to my video. Go to our video on Fleetwood Mac Killing House. You're gonna see me
Or
hate.
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah, those two reviews. Check those reviews out, and then the stuff that I'm saying here is going to be a lot more reasonable. But yeah.
Green earrings, I remember. The next song is going to be Haitian Divorce.
All right. Okay, another kind of bringing it back down now, another slower song. But again, once again, the groove is just infectious as always. You have great piano, and then the guitar. It sounds like there's a talk box on here. It definitely has a talk box effect, which very cool. Always nice, always kind of cool when a talk box gets involved. Really makes the song stand out. Again, I didn't write a whole lot about it, but getting the drums and the bass just wonderful as always. And the backing vocals, again, really good as well. Yeah, just another really great song. This is definitely just barely missed the top 5, but still really great one.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid song. I agree with you. You basically said a bunch of what I was thinking of. Such a good song. I mean, yeah, it really, really good song. Now that I think about it, the fact that I have this album at number 4 just proves how great the other 3 are. I mean, if you, I still feel confident in my putting this at number 4 on my ranking, but man, this is a great song, and if an album that has a bunch of these songs to have it on number 4, then you know, we're talking about the same band that has Asia and Can't Buy a Thrill, so give me a little break, So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like this song as well, but honestly, I think I would put it in the lower half, if I'm going to be honest, which you might think is crazy, but there's songs that I just like better. But it's still amazing, and the big thing I like about it is the talk box, A, and B, the drumming. Yeah, really good. Just keeps the beat going. And this is your Haitian divorce. This that I like the talk box and the drumming the most on this song.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this next one is going to be a fun one to talk about because there's a little inside joke on it. Everything You Did.
Yep. Of course, famously kind of pokes fun at the Eagles a little bit. But despite that, still another really nice song. Now this is the song I do have at the bottom, but again, something had to be on the bottom, so that was the song that ended up being at the bottom. But still, great song. Really good guitar intro. Piano again, the piano playing on here again, very nice, and with another great guitar solo as well. Very jazzy. Just a really good song, very solid. Again, it's at the bottom, but again, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's still really great. So there you go.
I actually disagree. I think this is one of my favorites. It's actually just barely missed off my top five. I see where you're coming from though. Completely see where you're coming from, but yeah, this is actually. Let me look at the amount of songs. No, this actually is in my top five. Yeah, this is in my top five. It's really good stuff. A lot of great playing on it. Yeah, I see where you're coming from though, but I have to disagree with you on that one.
I'm more with Nick. I like this one. Um, very catchy chorus, but my favorite part is only said once in the song, and it's the joke is turn up the Eagles, the neighbors are listening, which apparently was actually a real thing that Donald Fagen's girlfriend liked the Eagles, and if they ever got into an argument, they would turn the Eagles up so that nobody else could hear them. And so Donald Fagen was like, why not? We got a song about a jealous lover. Let's just throw in that thing about the Eagles and it'll be an inside joke. And the Eagles actually heard it. They played the record and were like, what? Are they making a dig at us? We got to make a dig back at them. And so when they made Hotel California, they threw in the line, they stab it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast, as a reference to Steely Dan. And well, Steely Dan never really struck back. Even though my roommate swears that on Gaucho, where he's like, I was driving down something and the smell of prickly pear, he swears that that's a play on Hotel California, but I don't know.
That would have been cool if they did that, like kept going back and forth.
But that would, yeah, there. I saw this video called like Yacht Rock something or other, where they made a video where the Eagles and Steely Dan were actually rivals or something. It was a really funny video.
Yeah, I saw that you sent the video to us. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But that's gonna bring us to our final song, The Royal Scam.
All right.
Yeah, you go first, Briar.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite Steely Dan songs. I mean, it's very different from everything else. This has a much more dark and more menacing tone to it. I mean, the song pretty much represents the album cover perfectly, I think. Again, of course, the song is about immigrants coming to America and they're going through hard times. So you have this guy just on a bench, and then you have these like predators
The
just looking
suits
down.
up in the buildings.
Yes, just looking down on him. I mean, this song really summed it up perfectly. Again, the piano and the drums, again, not crazy. It's not too crazy. They keep it pretty chill for the most part, but again, just has this very menacing sound to it. And Donald's vocals on here, like we haven't really been talking that much on Donald's vocals throughout on this review, but here his vocals really sell the whole theme of the song. He has that cynical, that biting sense he always puts in. Really great vocal performance here. Again, the horns here. Again, the horns are just perfect for this. And even when they switch up in the bridge section, it has this nice little breakdown, but then it goes back into the darkness. And it's just a perfect closing song. It's one of my all-time Steely Dan songs, and definitely one of the big highlights on this album. And just a perfect closing song.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the greatest songs by them. It's definitely in my top 25 favorite songs from them, of all time from them. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of Donald's voice, but this song is the big exception to that. Very good vocals by him. Yeah, I would always say this. My two favorite Steely Dan songs are the ones that don't have him singing. It's so messed up that I say that. Midnight Cruiser and Dirty Work. Those are my two favorite songs by them. And Donald doesn't have any lead vocals on either of those. And I feel bad for saying that, but maybe I might get used to his vocals after listening to them even more. But this song is an exception to that. This is one of his. This is probably his best vocal performance he does. Well, either his best or one of his best. But one of my favorite things about Steely Dan isn't the vocals; it's the writing and the musicianship. If I was just going based on vocals, then sorry, Steely Dan, you wouldn't be my favorite. You wouldn't be one of my favorites. It's kind of like Bob Dylan sort of thing. Like reminds me of Bob Dylan a tiny bit. Like even though the vocals aren't the best, the writing well more than makes up for it. Even especially the musicianship, like because they were so like they mentioned, like Garrett and Briar mentioned, they're very picky. So that plays into how like the quality that they're putting out. And yeah, this is I went on a huge tangent about Donald or whatever, but yeah, it's one of my favorite Steely Dan songs. And I mean, all five, like my five favorite songs off this album, could any one of these songs could be in my like top 10, or one of them's in my top 10 Steely Dan songs now. And well, I already spoiled what my favorite song is, so yeah.
I really like this song as well. Great way to end it. Great piano, great horns, and the groove is just amazing. Really great. Okay, that is going to bring us to our top 5 songs on the album.
All right. So my top 5 off the Royal Scam is number 5, The Caves of Altamira. Number 4, Don't Take Me Alive. Number 3, Kid Charlemagne. Number 2, The Royal Scam. And number 1, The Fez.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna include both the dishonorable and the honorable mention, but even the dishonorable mention is still really good. My number 5 is gonna be Everything You Did. That song's I love that song. My number 4 is gonna be Kid Charlemagne. My number 3 is gonna be Don't Take Me Alive. My number 2 is gonna be The Royal Scam. My absolute favorite off this album is The Fez. Glad me and Briar could agree on that. And the honorable mention is going to be The Caves of Altamira. And the dishonorable one's going to be Sign in Stranger.
My number 5 is The Royal Scam. My number 4 is Green Earrings. Number 3 is The Fez. Number 2 is Don't Take Me Alive. And number 1, Kid Charlemagne, with the honorable mention of The Caves of Altamira.
Nice. Yeah. Great. I guess if I were to quickly throw in my honorable mention, it'll be Haitian Divorce.
That's a good one.
Cool.
And now, the moment you have all been waiting for. What do we score this album on a scale of 1 to 10? So,
all right.
Briar.
All right. So for me, just gonna flip them back real quick. But yeah, for me, I'm gonna give this I was gonna be a bit harsh originally, but I can't deny it. I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. It's again, like I said, it's my all-time Steely Dan album. Just again, the playing, even the vocals are some of my absolute favorites. Some of my favorite songs from Steely Dan are on here. If I were to go for Steely Dan, this is usually the one I go towards first. But yeah, no bad songs. There's not one note wasted. It's just a great listen all the way through. So I would definitely say it would probably be somewhere in my maybe top 50 albums of all time. So yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I give it an 8 out of 10. Mostly because I don't listen to the album that much. That kind of plays a big part of it. That kind of docks a point out of it. And not only that, but even though it has five, like I said, could be in my top 50, or my second favorite off this album could be my top 25, and the other 5 could be my top 5 could be my top 50 songs. But none like my favorite song, like my favorite songs don't really hit me like my favorite songs off of like Countdown to Ecstasy or Asia or my or the name of the album right now. Can't Buy a Thrill. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's like a big part of why it's my fourth favorite as well. Is that like, even though it has a lot of my favorites on it, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it never hit. Well, it did hit me, but now that I've been really getting into, well, I haven't listened to it in a while, but not after I got into Counting Down to Ecstasy, like, even though none of the songs got as bad as Showbiz Kids, don't even want to think about that song. I mean, the rest of it though, like Razor Boy, My Old School, Pearl Quarter, King of the World. Usually I always go to those songs, and then with, I think the whole Can't Buy a Thrill album, I mean, that album always excites me the entire way through. From Do It Again all the way to Turn That Heartbeat Over Again. I just perfect all the way through. I think that's the only Steely Dan album I'd give a 10 out of 10, but yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 9.5 out of 10. Which is interesting, me being the biggest Steely Dan fan didn't give it the 10 out of 10, but there's one I like better.
Right. Yeah. That's you're never, and that's a good choice too. That's probably my
There's
second favorite.
there's three I like better.
Ouch.
Mm.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching our Royal Scam video. We really thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our little discussion about Steely Dan, would you give the video a like and maybe subscribe to see some more content in the future? Maybe some more Steely Dan videos. But this next video we're going to be making is going to be a review that we've been waiting for a while, and that is the long-awaited follow-up, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu. And we know all four of us are going to be very excited about doing this one. It's going to be great. We will see you next time. But before you go, let me just remind you that music is art and art is expression. We will see you later.